History of Thailand. Have you ever thought about how Thailand became so unique? Before there was Thailand, there was a region shaped by migration, war, religion, and trade. The first people to settle the land were Mon and Khmer communities, who built strong city-states and spiritual centers based on Buddhism and Hinduism. These early societies laid the cultural foundation for what would eventually become Thai civilization. You can still see traces of their influence in old ruins, religious practices, and even place names. But the real shift came when Thai-speaking people began migrating from southern China. They weren't invaders, they were more like quiet settlers who slowly built up power. Over time, they blended with local cultures, and out of that mix came the earliest Thai kingdoms. Sukhothai was the start of something new. It wasn't massive, but it marked a turning point. The kings of Sukhothai presented themselves as father figures rather than distant rulers. They pushed Buddhism, encouraged art and language, and built monuments like the famous Wat Mahathat. In short, they helped define what Thai meant. But their time was short-lived. Power shifted, as it always does. Ayutthaya was where things got serious. It ruled for over 400 years and became one of the most powerful kingdoms in Southeast Asia. Its capital was full of grand temples and palaces. It sent ambassadors to Europe and China. It traded silk, spices, and elephants. Foreign visitors compared it to Paris. But success comes with enemies. Burma eventually launched a brutal attack, burned the city, and brought the kingdom to its knees in 1767. Out of those ashes came a brief Thonburi period, led by General Thaksin, a war hero who took back lost territory and tried to restore order. But he didn't last long. He was overthrown by one of his generals, who started the Chakri dynasty in 1782. That man became king. He made Bangkok the capital, just across the river from Old Thonburi. His dynasty still sits on the throne today. Throughout the 1800s, Thailand, then called Siam, was under serious threat. British and French empires had taken over neighboring countries: Burma, Laos, Cambodia, and Vietnam. Siam's kings knew they had to play their cards right. Kings Mongkut, Rama IV, and Chulalongkorn, Rama V, modernized the country, building schools, railroads, and government institutions, while carefully negotiating with Western powers to avoid colonization. They gave up some territory, yes, but kept their sovereignty. That's a rare story in Southeast Asia. Then the 20th century came, and it brought everything with it. 2 world wars, the fall of absolute monarchy, a new constitution, and eventually a series of military coups. In 1932, the monarchy became constitutional, and the name changed from Siam to Thailand. The country sided with Japan during World War II, but later aligned itself with the United States during the Cold War. Since then, Thailand has been on a roller coaster of democracy and dictatorship. The monarchy remains hugely important in Thai society. Even though it no longer holds absolute power, the king is still deeply respected, and criticism is heavily restricted by law. At the same time, the economy has grown. Tourism has exploded, and modern cities now sit next to ancient temples. Yet from the darkest ashes, a warrior would rise. A man whose very name became synonymous with power, madness, and vision. He was no other than General Thaksin. Thaksin was a determined military leader from humble, non-royal origins who rose after Ayutthaya's fall. Refusing defeat, he rallied scattered forces, drove out Burmese occupiers, and reunited a shattered Siam through courage, speed, and an extraordinary ability to unite broken people. By 1768, General Thaksin had reclaimed a significant portion of Siam's land. But that was just the beginning. His capital, Thonburi, became the new heart of Siam. Thaksin's reign was marked by ambition and ruthlessness, but his growing paranoia and erratic behavior led to his downfall. After a military coup in 1782, he was overthrown and imprisoned, ending his reign. Despite his troubled leadership, Thaksin helped reunite Siam after its destruction by the Burmese. Following Thaksin's fall, General Phutthayotpha Chulalak, known as Rama I, ascended the throne and founded the Chakri dynasty in 1782. Rama I moved the capital to Bangkok. transforming it into the political and spiritual center of Thailand. His reign focused on consolidating power, unifying the kingdom, and strengthening the military. In the 19th century, Thailand faced increasing pressure from European colonial powers. King Mongkut, Rama IV, with his strategic vision, modernized Thailand by adopting Western technologies and diplomacy, preserving the nation's sovereignty. His son, King Chulalongkorn, Rama V, continued these reforms, modernizing the education, legal, and infrastructure systems. Rama V also negotiated with Western powers, ceding some land but ensuring Thailand's independence, making it one of the few Southeast Asian nations to remain free from colonial rule. Under the Chakri dynasty, Thailand transformed from a kingdom that could barely defend its borders into a modern nation-state. But like any dynasty, the Chakri family has had its ups and downs. There have been struggles with democracy, with military coups, and with public unrest. But through it all, the monarchy has remained a symbol of continuity, stability, and moral authority. Rama IX, or King Bhumibol Adulyadej, who reigned from 1946 to 2016, is a particularly iconic figure in this narrative. His reign lasted an astonishing 7 decades, making him one of the longest reigning monarchs in history. Throughout his reign, King Bhumibol was seen as the heart of Thailand, providing a sense of unity during times of political upheaval. His legacy lives on today in the reverence the Thai people have for the monarchy. Despite the challenges of modernization and a changing political landscape, Bangkok under the Chakri dynasty transformed into the sprawling electric city it is now. Its golden temples and bustling streets living side by side with modern skyscrapers. It's a city that holds centuries of tradition in its heart, even as it pulses with the energy of the present. As the world spiraled into chaos during the Second World War, Thailand found itself on the edge of a dangerous high wire, balancing sovereignty, survival, and shifting allegiances. The kingdom had been rebranded from Siam to Thailand in 1939, reflecting a new era of nationalism under military strongman, Plaek Phibun Songkram. And when Japan swept through Southeast Asia like wildfire, Phibun made a move that would haunt Thai politics for decades. He aligned the country with the Axis powers. Japanese troops entered Thailand on December 8, 1941, and were met with minimal resistance. Just hours later, Thailand signed an armistice and allowed Japanese forces to move through the country. Phibun painted it as pragmatic diplomacy, but to many Thais, it looked like capitulation. The government even declared war on the Allies, though Thai diplomats in the U.S. quietly refused to deliver the message, buying time for future redemption. And redemption came. A fierce underground resistance known as the Seri Thai, Free Thai movement, emerged. Made up of royalists, students, and even disillusioned government officials, they worked with Allied forces, smuggling intelligence and plotting against the Japanese presence. When the war ended, Thailand was spared the full brunt of punishment that came for other Axis-aligned states, thanks largely to the efforts of these unsung heroes and clever diplomacy. The post-war years were a carousel of coups and constitutions. Democracy was promised, drafted, delayed, then derailed, all in dizzying succession. Civilian governments struggled to take root while the military played puppeteer behind the scenes, always ready to pull the strings. In 1946, a tragedy rocked the nation. King Ananda Mahidol, Rama VIII, was found dead in his bedroom under mysterious circumstances, killed by a gunshot, wound to the head. Official explanations were murky. Conspiracy theories flourished. The nation mourned. And in the aftermath, his younger brother, Bhumibol Adulyadej, ascended the throne as Rama IX. Quiet at first, this young king would grow into a towering figure in Thai life. Meanwhile, the army tightened its grip. Field Marshal Sarat Thanarat emerged in the late 1950s, leading a bloodless coup and launching a new era of authoritarianism. Wrapped in nationalist propaganda, he promoted Buddhism and monarchy while crushing dissent, establishing a model of guided democracy that looked democratic on paper but was anything but. Elections happened, but the outcomes were predetermined. Students and activists who spoke too loudly vanished. Newspapers that asked too many questions went silent. Still, Thailand's strategic value couldn't be ignored. As the Cold War escalated, the United States funneled billions into the kingdom, seeing it as a critical buffer against communism in Indochina. American soldiers, cash, and culture flooded Bangkok. It brought development, but it also brought inequality, corruption, and an identity crisis. The 1970s cracked the illusion wide open. In 1973, a student-led uprising, fueled by anger, injustice, and idealism, toppled the military regime. For a brief moment, democracy seemed within reach. The people had found their voice, loud and clear, but it didn't last. In 1976, a brutal massacre at Thammasat University ended the dream. Right-wing paramilitaries and police opened fire on unarmed student protesters. Corpses were hung from trees. The military returned, cloaked in the language of national unity, but armed with tanks and censorship. This cycle, hope, resistance, repression, would repeat again and again. The monarchy, meanwhile, stood as the one institution that never fell. King Bhumibol, through decades of chaos, projected an image of calm and benevolence. To many, he was a father figure, a moral compass guiding a turbulent nation. His public silence was often louder than any politician's speech, and his rare appearances were treated like royal blessings. But even the most revered institutions carry shadows. Critics whispered of a system where deference stifled debate and sacredness shielded scrutiny. By the 1990s, Thailand had a new constitution, a booming economy, and a new class of tech-savvy, globally connected citizens. But the ghosts of military rule never fully left. In 2006, the military staged yet another coup, this time against billionaire-turned-populist Prime Minister Thaksin Shinawatra. He was beloved by the rural poor, despised by the urban elite. When the generals stepped in, they claimed to be saving democracy from corruption. In reality, they were reasserting control. Thaksin's shadow loomed large even in exile, igniting a political civil war that would define modern Thailand. Red shirts, yellow shirts, street protests, government crackdowns, courts stepping in where elections had failed. Thailand's democracy became a performance, democratic in appearance, fragile in practice. The red shirts, mostly Thaksin supporters and working-class Thais, demanded fair representation. The yellow shirts, loyalists and royalists, warned of corruption and chaos. At times, they occupied airports, paralyzed Bangkok, and clashed violently in the streets. It was a political color war, ideological, class-based, and deeply personal. Then came the event that changed everything, the death of King Bhumibol in 2016. After 70 years on the throne, his passing marked the end of an era. Thailand fell into mourning. Black clothing, silent tributes, and a year-long funeral ceremony turned the entire country into a living memorial. His son Vajiralongkorn became Rama X, a monarch with a very different image. Where Bhumibol was seen as humble and deeply spiritual, Vajiralongkorn was known for his flamboyance, controversies and long absences from the country. Questions that had long been unthinkable began to surface, in hushed tones, and eventually, in full protest. In 2020, something unprecedented happened. Students, not seasoned activists, took to the streets demanding not just government reform, but royal reform. They called for transparency, accountability, and a monarchy that served, not silenced, the people. Their language was bold, their symbolism cutting. They used three-finger salutes borrowed from the Hunger Games, TikTok to organize, and Twitter to broadcast their message globally. And the response? Arrests, internet censorship, sedition charges. The lèse-majesté law, once rarely invoked, was now used with full force. Protest leaders disappeared, reappeared in court, or vanished into exile. Yet the movement didn't die. It evolved, flowing like water through every crack in the state's defenses. Thailand, now in the global spotlight, stood at a crossroads. Tourists returned, markets fluctuated, but something fundamental had shifted. A new generation, raised on Wi-Fi and weary of silence, refused to play by old rules. They didn't hate tradition. They just wanted to shape it. Kindly share your thoughts on this in the comments. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more informative videos. See you in the next video.